Hello, and welcome to a Human Perspective podcast. I'm Lola Oguntoken, a job search coach, career coach, and people operations consultant. I have spent the majority of my career helping companies of all sizes grow. Now my main focus is helping individuals grow. On this podcast, I share very human thoughts and perspectives on a range of people-related topics. I also frequently chop it up with guests who share their own perspectives. Now, I can't promise everything you hear on this podcast will always be right, but I can promise to always give you a human perspective. Let's go. Welcome to A Human Perspective. On this week's episode, please meet Kate Sotsenko. Kate is a productivity coach and founder of The Good Busy. I came across Kate on LinkedIn, where Kate was sharing some very useful productivity tips. And I have this belief that a lot of people are very busy being busy and not necessarily being productive. That's the reason why Kate's content and Kate's approach really stood out to me. I reached out to Kate to ask her to join us and talk about what the good busy is and the ways to actually become good busy. Kate, welcome to A Human Perspective. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Lola. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast and for reaching out on LinkedIn. So I'm very, very happy to be here.
I'm very excited about our conversation today. So a good place to start would be for you to introduce yourself to the audience. If you can tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to the position that you're in today.
Yeah, so I'm a productivity educator and coach. So I work with busy team leaders, helping them to optimize their productivity and reclaim time for what truly matters at work and beyond work. So I worked myself in corporate for 15 years. I was mostly in retail, luxury, and hospitality, but I always trained and I loved training, teaching, educating. I love books. I watched over 1,000 TED Talks and other educational videos. So I love sharing that. And I think sometimes my team didn't like me because of that, because I always have the TED Talk. Oh, I know the TED Talk. So this is sort of how it all started. And I was always an organization freak, if I can say it this way. And I believe that when you plan, you remove the urgency aspect. And a couple of years ago, a line manager that I had introduced me to coaching, and I fell in love with it as well because it complements very well the training aspect of it, because training gives you a lot of information. So it's great, but what is missing often is that implementation part. And what
Yep.
coaching does, it helps you with the how to implement it step by step. So I loved it. I got certified. I'm an accredited coach today. And this is why I started doing what I do.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. So, what is the good busy?
That's a good question. So productivity is the good busy. So for me, the good busy is productivity on its own. It's the efforts that give results to something. That's what productivity is about. Busyness, as you said, being busy and busy doesn't simply make any sense.
Mm,
So when we are busy with purpose and we produce a result, that's what productivity is, and that's what being good busy means.
understood. Okay, brilliant. Why do you feel people are so focused on being busy without purpose?
I think there is a misconception around productivity today. And I'm very active on LinkedIn and I see a lot of it on LinkedIn in the conversations. Productivity for many still means doing as much as we can. So it means filling in our calendar with everything we can. Every single minute is busy doing something. But in reality, productivity means getting the most important things done. And that's a huge difference.
Big difference. Yeah.
Big difference. So the bad busy, it's what we experience today at work, is actually focused on quantity versus productivity, the good busy, that is focused on quality. And I think there are a lot of ways to look at it, but personally, I've never looked at the word busy as a bad one. I think we made it a bad one. And there are a lot of articles, conversations there saying that we should not use the word busy. But when you start looking into what it actually means, it simply means being engaged in an activity. It means being occupied. But what happens, and the reason why we feel so bad about being busy, and especially being busy at work, it's because of the feeling that we have at the end of the day. So we don't feel that we actually produce something. And that gives us that feeling that something bad happened, that we didn't use our time wisely. We didn't receive any satisfaction or fulfillment out of that day. Another reason why I think that we are busy being busy at work, it's because we think that makes us important.
Mm.
So being busy means that I am needed, I am requested, I have a lot of things to do. And that's psychology. That's absolutely fine. We all have that. That's the Maslow pyramid, self-esteem. But is that the right approach? That's a different topic, right?
Yeah.
And another one that I think plays a huge role in here is the group thinking. A lot of people complain about work. There are, again, lots of conversations going on about work is bad, that we all need to have freedom, we all need to become entrepreneurs, and we all need to have the work-life balance. The fact is that work is part of life. It's an integral part of life. We all have to work and make a living one way or another. So there is a choice that we have. It's either we learn to enjoy work or we continue complaining, but it's a choice.
All very, very good points there. I want to go back to a point that you made around quantity versus quality. And I think there are extremes to that on both sides, where perhaps you're too focused on the detail and you just push one thing out and you've hit the quality marker, but you could have done more if you were a little bit more efficient. And then there's the other side where someone just spreads themselves thin and they're covering everything for different reasons. I tend to see it's mostly because they choose to, because as you've mentioned, it does make them feel good and like they're involved in everything. But how does one find the balance? I do think it needs to lean more towards quality, in my personal opinion, every single time. Otherwise, you're just creating things that constantly need to be fixed and reiterated. But how does one find that balance of quantity versus quality and being able to make that judgment?
Great question. And I recognize myself in one of them, the one that you mentioned about the details. So that's perfectionism, right?
Yeah.
I am, well, like people say, yeah, I'm recovering perfectionist, but I
Yes.
pretty much am in that category. I'm learning.
Yeah.
But there are tools. That's the thing. There are tools. So one of them, it's a very simple one, and the most famous one is the Pareto rule. So that's the 80-20 rule. So what's the good enough, right?
Mm.
Is it 100%? Because perfection doesn't exist. And if we are always aiming for 100%, then we are aiming for perfection. And that's where we are actually going into the trap of bed busy again. Details are great. I have a lot of examples in my business life when I was working with people who had an extreme eye for details because they were designers. And there was a lot of conversations going on, how far were they going? Because in reality, 99% of people wouldn't see the details that they see, right?
Yeah, very true.
This is the balance, right?
Yeah.
So that 80-20 works very, very well. Another one that I truly, truly love, it's a book called The Big Five for Life by John Sterlicki. And he talks about how often we have and use intangible terms like feeling happy, feeling fulfilled, feeling successful. So all these terms are very intangible, and we're often going and giving too much in order to get there, but in reality, we simply don't know where we're going. He tells this story about the big five, and he gives this analogy with a safari. When people go into a safari, they rate their experience based on the number of the big five animals they see. So if they saw one, they say it was a good experience. If they saw two, they say it was a great experience. If they saw three, awesome. Then four, exceptional, so on and so forth. And five, it's beyond expectation. So I really, really love this concept, and he applies it only to life, and I decided to apply it everywhere so that I can define my perfect, and my perfect is the good enough. It's never going to be the perfect because that doesn't exist, but it allows me to know where to stop exactly. And that's also linked with another cognitive bias that we have that is called the paradox of choice. The more we do, and the more, for example, options we have, the more difficult it becomes for us to make decisions. So when we set those standards, we decrease the choices. And so we decrease the number of details that we need to look into, because we say, if I hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm done. That's it. That's the good enough. So instead of constantly looking for the best option, the best way, having the best presentation, we should know, or we must define what is our good enough, our perfect.
I completely agree with you there. I think one of the issues behind people being unproductively busy is because of exactly what you've said. No one actually knows what good is. No one knows what good looks like. And so they're measuring themselves based on activity, not results or productivity, as you've mentioned. If you've worked in a culture like that, I just do wonder, how on earth do you even work out what good enough is for you? I think that is a personal task that everyone should do for themselves, because sometimes your manager is not equipped to show you the way. Often your manager doesn't actually know what good enough is. So you set that standard. That point that you made about trying to understand what that is really important. And I think people need to start doing that more proactively, as opposed to waiting for God above to tell them what good and bad is. You're supposed to be the specialist in your field. You should be feeding that into the ether, so to speak.
Yeah, that's actually a very, very good point. One of the things that I advocate for is asking more questions, but it doesn't mean necessarily asking more questions to others, it's asking more questions to ourselves. We have so many conversations, online, offline, but one conversation that we rarely have is the conversation with ourselves. Generally, we have one person that we see in the mirror and one person that we hear in our head. And the reason why we get bed busy is because we don't have the alignment between the two. And so having those conversations, and that's why coaching is so powerful, because it is a conversation. Coaching is called a coaching conversation. When the coach asks you a question and you answer those questions. So that's what is helping you to have the conversation between these two people and align them and make sure that what you think and what you want is aligned with your actions. We need to proactively start asking questions to ourselves. Most of the time when I work with people, one of the first questions that we ask after we have the context, then we start with the number one question: what do you want? So what do you want instead? This is what you have. What do you want? 99.9% of answers are, I don't know.
Scary.
It's scary, but that's an answer. Here is the answer. This is why we're a bit busy, because we simply don't know what we want. Can you imagine if we only knew what we want? How easy it would become.
Exactly. It's so funny you said that, because I was literally about to say, and it's in relation to another point that you've made, but it's connected, around people's idea around what work is and how they choose to perceive work. I think a lot of people go into work unconsciously and very much, okay, it's a job. I just need to show up, really, and I'm going to get paid regardless. And that's the reason why they don't ask themselves those questions. That's the reason why they may not be happy in their roles. That's the reason why they think, oh, let me try something else or do something of my own, not realizing you can't escape work. If you want to exist in this society, you're going to work hard somewhere, whether it's on someone else's idea or your own. And actually with your own, you're probably going to have to do even more. I feel a lot of people simply show up. They do what they believe they need to be perceived as doing. And they don't actually ask themselves, okay, but what is the purpose of my role? How do I know I'm meeting goals? Asking yourself those questions in order to, again, as you've mentioned before, set the bar. And most people don't do it. They're waiting to be told. That's actually why there's a lot of mediocrity all over the place. And it's why most companies grow but fail. It's because no one's asking any questions. They're just all part of this bubble and hype and the look and the busyness of it all. No one is truly achieving anything. And people go from role to role, not even understanding that they haven't really done anything in the last role. This is where you spend the majority of your time. Don't you want to feel good about what you're doing? Don't you want to feel like you're really contributing in a real way, that you're really making a difference, so that if and when you do leave, whoever takes it on, they've got something to pick up and again, make better.
Absolutely.
I do think it's scary that most people think this way and that most people say, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just showing up.
Yeah, I like that you touched upon this notion of what is work, right?
Mm.
There is a lot of bad busyness in the workplace, but when we say workplace, we're talking about the corporate world. There is a lot of life going on outside of the corporate world. And sometimes it's helpful to just take a look outside of this periphery that we live in. Let's look at doctors. Are they bed busy? Are they not working? Are they not getting tired? They are. Let's look at athletes. I do a lot of analogy with sports because I played tennis for 10 years. So I can tell you I trained for 6 hours a day when I was 11. For any adult, that would be a lot of work. And for any child, that's even more. But I never felt bed busy because
Mm.
I was doing it for a purpose. I was training to become a number one player in the world, which I'm not. That's fine. Goals change. But the fact is that it was a lot of hard work. We go and then we admire NBA, football, and all of that. But this is work for them too. We look at them and we enjoy it's entertainment for us. But all of this is work. When you think about artists, actors, they are thirsty for work and for gigs because if they don't have gigs, they don't have work, they are not busy. That's bad busy for them because they're not making a living and they're not doing what they love because many of them choose that profession because of the passion that they have. So I think it really helps to look at work differently. And that's why I always insist that it's not the work on its own that is bed busy. It's the feeling that we receive, that we have at the end of the day. And that's why we feel bad about it. We make this association between, oh, work is bad. I'm currently busy. Am I good busy or am I bad busy? I'm enjoying our conversation. I'm very good busy. That's the question. How do I feel in the moment? And it doesn't mean that every day is going to be good busy. It's impossible. Once again, let's be real about that. It's the
Yeah.
80-20 rule applies here as well. If you have 80 days out of 100, 80 days are good days, great. If you have a bit more, even better. But if you have bad days, that's also fine. That's just life. It's never going to be perfect. Let's not aim for perfect.
I think something that was very interesting in terms of what you said is the analogy of an athlete. Even in terms of what we do see, just as you mentioned, you are practicing 6 hours a day, the majority of the work goes on behind the scenes. It's not flashy, it's not in front of other people, it's not sitting in meetings, it's proactively putting work in to sharpen yourself. It's not just like, oh, I already know how to hit the ball. It's always about making it better. How can I sharpen myself? And again, that is another element that I feel is missing because of that lack of purpose in terms of what people are doing. Do you feel it's possible to shift this mindset? I just feel it's so prevalent. I always say leaders impact the culture of the business. And if that's the tone that they set and people feel that's the game they need to play in order to grow and develop their careers, is it even possible to shift this mindset of bad busy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, it's a yes. We often talk about leaders, assuming that leaders are leading a team, they are leading other people. But we are all leaders because leadership starts with ourselves. And a lot of people blame companies. Companies are not taking care of our work-life balance. Companies are not doing that. Companies do not exist without people. Organizations are a group of people working towards the same purpose. So if we want to change something, it starts with ourselves because we are part of that group. No matter what, no matter the position, no matter where we are. There is a good news, and it's a beautiful thing. Our most natural way to learn is by observation. So if we start to lead by example, basically we start being who we want to be and who we want to see around us. That's how we change. And it doesn't require a lot of effort to change others because we know that that's impossible. We can only change ourselves. So this is where we actually start the work from ourselves. And when we get good busy, the others see that we are good busy. They see how happy we are, how fulfilled we are.
Yeah.
We are cracking jokes, we're smiling, we have time. Others want that too. And they're going to come to you and they're going to ask you, how did you do it? I want to learn, teach me. And that's what for me leadership is about. It's not about the position. It's not about the role. It's not about the hierarchy. Leadership starts from self-leadership.
Very true. They're these general concepts we've all been raised with around relationships, careers, work, etc. And one element of this, I think, is around ambition and what that looks like. I always ask myself, when you're using these words, what does it mean to you? How do you interpret it? And so for me, ambition is someone who wants to climb the ladder. And most companies are looking for someone with ambition as well. How does someone reconcile with that? Let's say this is an example of me where, okay, I do want to grow in my company, but it's more important for me to do purposeful work. Equally, in the back of my mind, I am still ambitious. Am I able to truly achieve my career goals whilst being purposeful in a way that I'm not seeing around me? What do you think about that aspect of things? Just the whole concept of ambition and that perhaps being a little bit of a blocker.
Again, I think it starts with definitions. What is ambition? What is purpose? What is your goal? What is success? What is growth? All these concepts, they don't have a universal definition. They need you to define them. And that's a place to start, because that's exactly a conversation I was having yesterday with a client. So she was talking to me about, at my age, I already need to be successful. And I said, what does it mean to be successful? Because there are people who see success as being a CEO of a company, and that's great for them. But there are some people who feel that when they teach yoga at the beach and they do that every single morning, and that's how they earn their living, that's success. So defining those concepts is very, very important. Laura Gesser-Otting talks about how very often we are working all our lives towards the success that is not ours, because that was not the success that we defined. And when we get there, we don't feel what we thought we would feel when we get there. And we have a lot of questions. And the only way from there is down, because we're lost. We don't know what to look for next. And so I think it's very, very important to define it, like ambition and growth. Growth can be vertical, but it can be horizontal as well. So what do you define as growth? How do you want to contribute? You can contribute in a completely different way. I always see a company as a cake. Just imagine it was a cake. Every single person that is part of the company must play a role. It's an ingredient for a yummy cake. So how does everybody make it yummy? And if you take one, it's not going to be the same cake, which is fine. But you need to know which cake are you baking. I think, again, sports analogies are so, so powerful. And I think we can bring so much from sports. When you look at team sports, and I don't believe that there are individual sports, although I play tennis, the first thing that the tennis player does when they win something, they thank the team. They wouldn't be there without the team. Whatever we do in life, we never do it alone. And there are a lot of solopreneurs out there, which was fantastic. And I applaud all of them. And currently I am one of them. But I have a huge amount of support from my family, my friends, my peers. Without them, I wouldn't be here. So I do have a team. I do believe that I do have a team.
I love that.
And that's why, again, sports is incredibly powerful way to learn how to operate and how to manage teams and how to achieve success. In sports, they know how to set goals, right? They have one goal. They only focus on that one. In business, we focus on KPIs. We confuse KPIs with goals.
Very true.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier, when we're working, we want to contribute to the purpose of the company, to the product or the output of the company. So this is what they do in sports. They are not letting you play unless they know exactly the role that you're going to play on the field.
Yes.
The goalkeeper knows. I'm bad at football, but I'm giving you that example. The goalkeeper knows that he stays there. He knows the spot. He knows what he needs to do. He's not going to go and score.
Yeah.
Right?
Very true.
Okay.
Very true. Very, very
Yeah.
true.
The interesting statistic there is that almost 50% of people think that their job descriptions do not actually match the actual work that they do. What does it tell you? It tells us that People are actually just being busy. They were hired to do specific work, but they are not doing the actual work. So, what's the purpose, right? What is their purpose? What are they trying to achieve? Maybe things have changed. Great. But then we need to shift it, right? We need to pause. We need to review the job description. Are we aligned? And then we proceed from there. But a lot of companies are running. They're constantly running. We need more, more, and more because the growth in the companies is defined by performance. Performance is achievement of the goal, mostly of sales, the revenue. But productivity is different. Productivity is achieving goals with minimum effort. And that's when profit comes in handy. And that's when you start looking at the profit. But because a lot of companies are quoted on the stock markets and stock markets see performance, so sales as growth, not often we look at the profit.
Mm, mm.
So very often, as long as the sales are there, what's the point to look at how much are we spending and what are we doing? And are we doing the right thing or are we just being busy?
Exactly.
Right. So there
Exactly.
are a lot of things that we can learn from sports, really.
It's like common sense and basic maths goes out of the window, doesn't it? It's just
It
so,
is.
it's so strange.
Yeah.
My work matters to me and I want to be productive always. And so it's important for me, if there isn't clarity, I go get it. I ask my manager for a sit down and I ask, what exactly do you need me to do? Am I on track? Or something that I've done, for instance, when I started a role was, okay, this is my plan for the first 3 to 6 months. Does this make sense? Are we aligned? And then checking in later on to see how progress is being made. But it just enables you to really prioritize. And like you mentioned at the very beginning, prioritizing the important stuff. There's plenty I could be doing, but you've got to be careful because those things aren't necessarily impactful. So again, this is where people really need to be much more invested in the work that they do and in clarifying what good results are. I think this is another reason why, and I see it a lot because I've worked in startups where people all of a sudden they see that they're being let go and it comes as a shock because they've been allowed to not necessarily be productive. They haven't had that conversation to say, okay, actually, what are the goals? And then checking in, have I met the goals? Does this make sense? And yeah, I see it quite often where people are a bit surprised that it's not working out. Sometimes it's unfair, but I do genuinely feel that, yes, it's their responsibility to be clear about what they need, but it's also your responsibility to be clear about that too, so that you're not wasting your time. Considering all the layoffs that we've been seeing in general, so we're seeing layoffs happening in bulk at the moment. And you may have already answered this, but why are companies not more concerned about productivity? Because I think, especially now at this point in time, layoffs are making companies look bad. They're much more public than they used to be. And it is really showing bad business, so to
Yeah.
speak. But I don't think they're necessarily going to change the way that they view productivity. What are your ideas around why that is the case?
I think a lot of companies are scared to take their foot off the accelerator because growth is when we have our foot on the accelerator. That's what it is. And I think because we are constantly running, we do not necessarily want to look what's inside because it's more
Mm,
comfortable this way. It's the habitual way. This is how everybody does this. So why would I stop? And if I stop, what would happen? There are a lot of trainings out there how to sell, but there are no trainings how to spend. And when I say spend, I don't necessarily mean just money, but I also mean energy because how to sell, you can sell your time, you can sell your energy, you can sell your knowledge. The same, how to spend your knowledge, how to spend your energy, how to spend your time. And because of this, we are not used to count. We count what we sell. We are not good at counting what we spend.
yeah.
And I agree with you earlier, you mentioned, and I think it's very, very important. It's a mutual accountability, it's a contract, and we both sign the contract. The organization or somebody on behalf of the organization signs the contract, and we sign the contract. So, yes, if your line manager is not asking enough questions, it's our responsibility to ask those questions.
Exactly. Yeah.
People think that leaders are born. I don't know about you. I don't think so. I
I
think
don't
that
think so.
you become a leader, and it's a journey, because you're
Yes.
going to make mistakes, you're going to experience so many different things and situations, and every day you learn how to be a leader. And again, it starts with self-leadership, right? So it's a journey. It's a never-ending journey, and it's a rewarding one. So understanding that we play a part in this, okay, we can all blame our managers, but the fact is that we might be a manager for someone else. And if we want our team to behave in a certain way, once again, we need to lead by example. So if we are not taking the lead and we are not taking the initiative to ask those questions and to create that clarity that you talked about, we are also part of the problem. And that's an
Mm.
acceptance that many people don't have. That's why
Mm.
very often we talk, how bad is the company? How bad is the manager? But it's a relationship. We
Mm.
have a relationship, and we know that there are always at least two people in a relationship.
Yeah, very true.
And I'm not an advocate for a perfect relationship. It will never be perfect. It won't. It will have ups and downs. It will have difficult conversations. It will have celebrations. It will have jokes and laughter if it's a good relationship, hopefully. But it will never be perfect. And it's okay. And once again, an analogy from sports, players argue with coaches all the time.
Mm.
All the time, especially when they lose. When they're losing, they are lashing it. And the coach knows that's part of the job, is to be there, like the punching, get that punch. And it's fine. But because the coach cares and because the player cares, they talk it out, they work it through, they find a common ground, or they find a way to agree to disagree. And that's the type of relationships that we need more in the workplace. Not that we need to agree more. We need to learn more how to agree to disagree, but we know the clarity, right? We have the clarity, we have the goal, we are working towards the same goal. And that's why we care. We both care. And that's why we argue, we disagree, because we care.
I actually love what you said there, because I think there's a lot of rhetoric out there on LinkedIn where people talk about toxic managers, and I completely get it. If you have a goal focused manager, very likely that will be a bit of a tricky relationship. Whereas if you have someone that just kind of, okay, yeah, it's fine, goes with the flow, yeah, then you're going to have a quote unquote nice manager. It depends. How much will you learn under that person versus the one that's actually
Yeah.
going to stretch and challenge you? That's the question. And don't get me wrong, there are some horrible managers out there, but I'm not talking about those ones. But I think some managers that are looped in are those goal focused ones. I love what you said about the fact that when we look at sports, people do have a go at their coach, and that is all part and parcel of that relationship. And I think we need to normalize that. We need to normalize challenging your manager and really being able to hash things out. If you don't agree, explain, come with your research or whatever you need to. But there is this personal responsibility as well to get the most out of this working relationship and your role. And I think that's the part that's not taught, that ability or that need to actually challenge your manager and have challenging conversations with your manager or your leaders, and that being normalized. I think a lot of people feel being professional is nodding, saying yes, and being compliant. And actually, in my mind, I'm like, no, but you're an adult with independent thoughts and you're a specialist in your field. You shouldn't just be nodding to someone that has never done your job before. You should be the one actually contributing more. This idea around professionalism as well just needs to really shift in order for people to get the most out of their working relationships. If you don't agree with your manager or they're not quote unquote nice, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. What are you getting out of this relationship? How much have you grown and developed? Is that important to you or not? Just asking these questions, I think, is super important.
Asking questions, any questions, is important.
Yes.
The more questions we ask, the more
The
answers we
better,
get.
right? Yes.
It's very important to ask those questions. And I think it's also very important to be aware of trade-offs. Once again, we're all human beings, right? So what do you want from the manager? Do you want the manager to be nice, or do you want something else? So a question I used to ask my team all the time is a question that I used to ask myself when I was getting a new job and when I was working with a manager. And for me, there are two most important things that I needed to have in a manager. One, I needed to learn. And the second, I needed protection. I needed to know whenever I made a mistake, he or she would have my back no matter what. Then I will learn. She will teach me or he will teach me. But I needed to know that there's going to be a shield in the moment. So I tried to give it to my team as well. But I understood at a certain point in my career that not everybody wanted the same thing. So I started asking this question to my team. And I said, I can give you two things, two most important things. Tell me what they are. And I promise you, I'm going to give you those two. But for the rest, it's a trade off. And as long as we are aligned, we are going to have a good relationship. But this question also allows me as a manager to ask for the same, because I know that there's going to be trade offs on the other side too.
Yes.
So I was one of those goal-oriented managers. I'm very, very demanding manager. And I was very upfront with my team. But I said, it all depends on what you want to get. What do you want? You want to learn? You're going to learn with me. 100%. Okay, 99. That's make it perfect. What else do you want? Do you want to be my friend? That's a different story. I think there are a lot of friendships at work and it's fantastic. And I think there is a difference between friendships at work and friendships outside of work. You can have a fantastic working relationship at work and then you're not friends outside of work. And that's absolutely fine, right? So again, it's all about understanding what you truly want and also accepting that, like Michelle Obama said, you can have it all, just not at the same time.
Good point. So some people may not be able to recognize that they are part of the bad, busy tribe. What are the red flags they should look out for?
For me, bad busy doesn't mean burnout. I don't talk about burnout because I think that we don't need to get to burnout stage to take action.
Exactly. It's already too late by then.
It's too late. There are a lot of coaches and there are a lot of people who work with burnout and they help people to get out of it. I don't work with people who experience burnout because it's a different category. There is a lot of psychology that is involved there as well. And sometimes it goes beyond coaching and teaching and mentoring. I think it's important to ask questions every single day. There was one example that I found brilliant on how can you measure your state every single day. So there was a company, they put tennis balls in front of their exit door in the office and they put 3 bins and each employee had to take a ball at the end of the day and throw in a bin. So the first bin was awesome. I had an awesome day at work today. The second was good and the last one was bad. And I think it's a great exercise that you can do with yourself mentally at the end of the day. So you can start by asking yourself, how did I feel, right? Because productivity and good busy is a feeling. And then there are the classical ones, for example, when you and your team are running constantly after deadlines. We all have deadlines. Deadlines is a word that I don't recommend using because of the word dead. It activates the flight mode. There are target date, due dates, timelines, whatever you want to use, but try to avoid deadlines. So this is one, for example. The other one, you never seem to have enough time because when you're hired, normally you're hired to do the job within the amount of time that is allocated for you to do the job. So another one where you are hitting all your goals, but it doesn't feel good. You don't feel fulfilled. You don't find the satisfaction in hitting the goals, right? Then there is the attrition, obviously, or arguments, too many conflicts. There are healthy conflicts, and then there are too many conflicts. So this is another one for you to consider. When you think about the morning, when you wake up and you have the Monday blues, for example, how do you feel in the morning? I'm not saying that every single day you need to be motivated and dream to go to work. We all get tired and athletes do too. And sometimes they don't want to go and train, but they have to. So it's okay. Again, 80-20. But if you are in the 80 where it's a no, that's a question that you need to ask yourself. The 20 is the no and the 80 is the yes. That's the healthy balance. So these are the things that I would particularly look out for. These are very, very simple ones.
And what can people start to do? So if they're listening to this podcast today and they are able to recognize some of the red flags that you've mentioned and they just don't even know where to start, what can people start to do to overcome this learned and addictive behavior?
Pause. That's what they need to start doing. Pause. Stop. I always give the example of F1. If the F1 drivers have time for a pit stop, you do too. So
Mm.
pause, take that foot off the accelerator, pause, and ask yourself the questions. Try to have a conversation with yourself. And I insist it's a conversation, not a monologue. So a monologue is when we start telling ourselves what to do or how we feel or what's wrong. A conversation starts with a question. So, how do I feel today? Am I good busy? Am I bad busy? Do I feel fulfilled? Am I satisfied? Do I feel demotivated? There are many questions that you can ask, right? And based on this, you can ask even more questions. If you say, oh, I feel bad, what makes me feel bad today? What is it about bad? Or how do I actually want to feel instead? What makes me feel this way? What happened today that made me feel this way? And you start from there because this conversation will help you to define what's most important. It's the end goal. How do you want to feel? How do you want to be busy?
Mm.
The number one rule to optimal productivity is to start with the end in mind. If you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. As Zigzagler said, if you aim at nothing, you get nothing. So this is where I would recommend people to start. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you will all find that you're a bit busy. You can find that you're a good busy, which is a great news. Fantastic. So learn from this and do more of that. Do more of what's working. But if you find that there is a tendency or there is a little red flag that you noticed, then maybe there are a lot more questions that you can ask for yourself. And then if you do really think that you need to ask for help, then do ask for help.
Obviously, everything has pros and cons. So we've talked about this kind of transition from bad busy to good busy. What are the risks of good busy?
I don't want to sound too confident, but I wouldn't say there are risks. I
Mm.
would say there are trade offs. And again, it
Mm.
all depends on your definition of good busy, right? So today we're talking about the good busy at work, but you can also be good busy outside of work. There are a lot of people who have difficulties to say no, and they accept every single invitation, every single birthday party, every single engagement, which is equivalent to bed busy outside of work as well. So it's about finding that balance and you're good enough for the good busy, whether it's at work or outside of work. So I do not necessarily see any particular risks because for me, good busy is once again not about doing. It's about doing and getting the most important things done, making time and space for what truly matters, and also know when to stop doing because we are not machines, and even machines, they need fuel to continue going. We're not machines. And again, coming back to the athlete world, every single athlete knows the importance and values of rest because if they don't have enough fuel in their tank, they won't perform. And performance for them is the most important thing, is the goal. They want to win. So it's the same. When we don't give ourselves permission to rest, we are not giving ourselves permission to perform. A lot of people believe in that misconception of productivity, doing. And when they have a no day, I'm quoting actually someone who I have a very good relationship with on LinkedIn, a person that I really like to follow. He calls it no days. When you have a no day, you don't feel guilty anymore
Mm.
because you are within your metrics of the good enough. You say, well, every day is good. Every day is good busy. Well, today it's not, and that's okay. Or what on Instagram they used to call the Couchella day. Like, just get on the couch and enjoy the day. I have those, and I love those. I truly recommend everyone to have them at least once a month. Oof.
And what are you hoping to achieve with the work that you do and the work that you're doing with individuals?
I say my mission is to create good busyness in the workplace. I don't believe in work life balance because I do think that work is part of life. We all have to work one way or another, but we have a choice. we have a decision to make. It's either we will go with the flow and we will learn to enjoy working, or we will hate it and we will continue complaining about this. So that's a choice. And what I want to do is to educate leaders on how to ask questions, how to take this initiative, how to lead by example in order to create that good busyness for themselves, but also for their teams. We always talk about leaders' job, leaders' objective is to create new leaders. Well, this is the only way for me to create new leaders, is to lead by example. We touched upon bad managers, and bad managers are the reason many people leave jobs today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Creating more good busyness, we can actually create better relationships at work, and we can actually enjoy work as a social experience as well. I hope baby
Yeah.
steps. I do believe one step at a time. So I do believe in one person at a time, and there is a ripple effect that will happen, right? So this is what I'm trying to achieve.
And how can people get in touch with you or find you?
LinkedIn is the best way. So connect with me, maybe just drop a note that you learned about me from your podcast. That would be easy for me to accept the connection. DM. I always answer all the messages. It can take a few days, but I do believe that it's important. Answering is part of the good busy. So that's what I
Yeah.
want to do as well, and lead by example, not ghosting.
Great. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, Kate. It was wonderful having this conversation with you. It's been a debate I've been having in my own head with myself for a long time. So it's brilliant to be able to talk to someone who is all about getting people to be more productive and follow the path of being good busy. So thank you.
So thank you so much, Lola, for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of A Human Perspective. If you enjoyed the topic discussed today, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share with anyone who may find our topics of interest. If you're interested in working with me, feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn, just search my name, or email me at lola@ahumanperspective.com. I look forward to connecting with you again on the next episode. See you there.